Hello, welcome. Let me just organise my music. Nice to be with you all here today. So I wasn't live a second ago, but now I am, so all is good. So I'm Amy, I'm a senior dance artist with the company. I have very curly hair, I'm all in black, and I'm currently 5 months pregnant. And today we're going to be looking at curves, tilts and twists. So to promote mobility and also to increase functionality of the spine. So we'll work a lot with kind of multi-dimensional versions of those things. And I'm aware that people have very different shapes and access to mobility in the spine. So what I'd really like to know is how useful this was for you and whether you have any alternative options. So for me, my version might look very different to you, and that's okay. And I also think that if you're a bit unsure, make the movements very small just to protect the spine and not overly kind of push into it. And then at the end, we'll have a nice play. It's also really good for me to say about the setup, so I'll say that before I talk anymore. So what I need for the first exercise is for you to have some contact on a surface with the back of the skull. So either against a wall, and ideally the pelvis in contact with the wall as well, or LJ, one of our fantastic company dancers, had this great idea, and I'm going to use it as well. If you're working in a wheelchair, it's really hard to get up against a wall, or even if you're sitting in a regular chair. So what's quite useful is to back in between a door frame, so your wheels go past each side of the door frame, and then you can make quite good contact with the door frame. So it doesn't have to be the whole kind of expanse of the skull, it's just really just a little bit so you can notice the movement of the skull against that surface. Yeah? Fab. So while you organise yourself to do that, either finding a wall or a door frame, it's probably quite useful for me to say that, and important actually as well, that I was really inspired by this exploration by Gary Ward, who developed Anatomy in Motion, and he has this great method called daily cogs, which works with all these curves and counter curves, tilts and counter tilts, twists and counter twists. And then I'm going to kind of take it to a different place that's kind of more useful or more interesting in dance and movement. And if you're interested in looking at his kind of explanation, then written in the comments you'll find a link, and he'll revisit this exercise we're going to do at the beginning and probably give you more information and kind of more academic kind of explanation. And then also, as I said, I'm interested in what your experience is of this. So please, if you have any feedback, also write that in the comments. And yeah, we're really wanting that from you. We want this to be a dialogue so that we can evolve our practice and so you feel like you have ownership over your own practice as well. So hopefully now you found your space. So I'm going to put some music on. Fingers crossed that it's not too loud, but I'm quite loud, so hopefully you can hear me too. And then also it's quite good for you to know that for me, this exercise has changed quite a lot because being pregnant, the mobility of the spine changes and the way that you can access the spine changes. So maybe there are certain things that look a bit strange on my body, but that's great, that's kind of part of it, yeah? So finding the back of the skull, and if you can as much as possible, the lower back as well, or the length of the spine, but obviously we have our natural curves, so don't push into it, you work with your natural curves, and if they're different to mine, that's great. And then I want you to think about the spine, if possible, in 3 parts, so the lower, middle and upper. But for me, my lower is my lumbar, my middle is my thoracic, and my upper is my cervical. But perhaps if you're working with different mobility, your lower is your ribs, your middle is around your shoulders, so around the sternum area, and your upper is the cervical. So just kind of try and compartmentalise the spine a little bit so we work with slightly more complex articulations. So lower, middle, upper. And then rest the back of the skull. Rest the rest of the spine if it's appropriate. And then we're going to extend the lower and middle spine. And just notice what happens on the back of the skull. So where there is a change of surface on the back of the skull. And then you're going to change, so you're going to flex the middle and lower spine. And just again, notice what happens in the cervical spine and where now the surface of the skull meet. And again, changing. So, extending in the lower and the middle. And then flexing. Just take this for yourself a few times, just noticing where the skull moves against the surface, and it might be very different to mine to begin, that's fine. Perhaps just a note here is to say that an extension in the spine is opening the front surface of the body, and a flexion is opening the back. So if I just extend my lower and middle, then I kind of sticking out the belly really. Yes? So now I'm going to encourage you to find this counter curve in the cervical spine. So as you flex the lower and middle, you should feel that the surface brushes down the back of the skull, so it's lower on the skull and the chin is slightly tucked in. Keep your focus on the horizon. So now you have an extension in the lower and middle and a flexion in the cervical. And then as you change, your skull brushes against the surface, going higher on the surface. So it goes this way and the chin lifts. So I want you just to try and actually, not force that, but find that opposition in the curve. So as you flex, you extend the cervical. As you extend, you flex the cervical. Keeping that skull on the surface. Keeping your eyes on the horizon. And it might be very small. Don't push into your lower mobile spine. And maybe you take this really small. Maybe you take it quite quick or slow. And then you're just going to move away from the wall. This is quite funny with my pregnant belly, but we're going to try and move sequentially through those moments. So you get this kind of like articulation in the spine. So my head will be a bit distorted because I'm just going to keep an eye on the camera. So you're going to find your flexion in your lower and middle, softening down here, and your extension in your cervical. And then we're going to sequentially change. So I change my cervical, I change my middle, I change my lower. And then I move up the spine. So I change my lower, my middle, and my upper. And down again. So you get this weird little ripple up and down the spine. Take your time. See if you can find the coordination. Maybe go a bit quicker once you've found it. And you can shift your eyes off the horizon. So it's not a ripple in the usual sense because we have this counter curve action going on. Oh, it feels quite gutsy, which is great. So now we're going to work with tilts and counter tilts. I'll step back a bit so I'm pretty much in my doorway. You're going to take your hands to your sternum, and I kind of use my hands to help that kind of movement of the sternum. And first, I just want you to tilt over to one side. Really open in the shoulders. And if you want, you can soften in the back of the opposite knee, so you just feel an extra little curve in the lower. And notice what you want to do with your spine, and maybe just increase a little bit that tilt. Notice where your head hangs, and then we're going to keep that tilt in the lower and middle, and then readjust the head so it comes back to the centre. So here we have a tilt, and we have a counter tilt, and then we change the other side. So again, just go first for that tilt, kind of very Cunningham tilt. Maybe use your hands like you're kind of turning a cog. Maybe soften in the opposite knee just to encourage a little bit more tilt. opposite way, or if it's easier, just think of keeping it on the horizon. Eventually you do want to try and open the side of the neck. And then maybe moving through a little bit quicker, maybe turning the card, maybe stylizing it a little bit, almost like you're doing a strange run. Yeah, a little bit jazzy. Good. And then we're going to work just with a little bit of sequential movement in the sides. So we're going to move the pelvis, the ribs and the head, and then back. The head, the ribs, the pelvis. Pelvis, ribs, head, head, ribs, pelvis. And again, pelvis, ribs, head, head, ribs, pelvis. Or if you're thinking of your own version, the lower, middle, upper, upper, middle, lower. Lower, middle, upper, middle, lower. It's quite interesting to perhaps go ribs, shoulders, head, head, shoulders, ribs. Yeah, working higher in the spine. Great. We're going to move on to twists, encounter twists. So I'm going to like I'm holding a trolley. And so I want to keep my shoulders on my spine. I don't want to twist my shoulders off the spine. I'm just going to see how far I can rotate. So from my lower, my middle, and my upper, around the corner. Really gently. In Gaga, they say soft grab. Yeah? Soft grab. So soft grabbing, one way. Grabbing the bones a little bit nice and gentle. Coming back. Other way. Soft grabbing. And coming back. Other way. Soft grabbing. Coming back. So now we're going to soft grab and then we're going to bring the head back. And other way, soft grab, bring the head back to the center. So your lower middle goes and your upper stays. So keep the head forward now. Lower middle goes, upper stays. Lower middle goes, upper stays. Lower middle goes. Got this lovely like contortion in the body, and then we're going to make it even more complex. Lower, upper stays, and just the middle goes. So just think about your shoulders going. So just the middle, and center. Just the middle, and center. Just the middle, and center. Just the middle. Boy, you should feel like you're kind of getting wrung out. Okay, a little bit of a sequential, so we're going to go lower, middle, upper, and then start from the top, upper, middle, lower. So twist, lower, middle, upper, and then the upper comes back to the center, middle comes back to the center, lower comes back. And again, lower, middle, upper, upper, middle, lower, lower, middle, upper, upper, middle, lower. And again, see if you can make it nice and smooth. It feels a little bit strange. Great. I'm going to turn the music up now, and I just want you to have a play with all that motion you found. So thinking about your curves and counter curves, your tilts and counter tilts, your twists and counter twists. And we're just going to have a little move, a little exploration together. Think about that soft grabbing of your bones. Think about the opposition. Think about kind of wringing out the flesh. Let's go. Maybe start small. Maybe refinding. And then just seeing where it takes you. How can you find this complexity? Try not to miss out the twists, tilts, curves. Maybe refinding some sequential movement. Really complex patterning. Softening it down. Making it smaller. Great. I hope you enjoyed that exploration and that you feel like you've got a bit of a new spine, new potential for movement. And again, please just write any feedback, any comments. And next up we have LJ with hands, which will be fabulous. And then I'm back at 2 with clockwork arms. And just to make sure, if you're struggling to get back in to the page and see all of the events today, then just go back to the channel and refresh. Yeah, and then it will all come up again. Yeah, so stay with us. We've got loads of exciting stuff to come, and I will see you soon. Take care, guys. Really nice to have you.